Hi, my name's Nikki. I'm the Obsessive Bookseller, and welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk about the best books I read in 2021. In an average year, I read about 80 to 100 books, and there are normally about 20 books vying for my top 10 position. But this year, looking at my stats, there are only 10 that made my top list, so it made it really easy to pick. I am just now in these last few months getting over kind of a reading slump, an ongoing one. I figured out that I was trying to read too many books at once. I figured out that I wasn't focusing all of my attention on the best books first. I was mostly reading obligation titles, and I'll link my full read list for the year from Goodreads down below. The books that made my top 10 are awesome books. I am so excited that I read them. A couple of them have even made my all-time favorites list, which I will also link. I'm not going to rank these top 10. I'm just going to start with the earliest one read and work my way up to the most recent finished books. Okay, the first one I read and loved is Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson, book 4 in the Stormlight Archive. I will spend however much time in this world that the author will let me. I have reread these several times and I am never bored. They're thousands of pages for the whole series, and I have not been bored yet with a single passage. I absolutely love it. I think the pacing of this one was a little slower in places, but yeah, that didn't bother me. I love that each novel seems to have a focus or discovery, and in this case it was on Novani Kholin and the Fabrials, and absolutely love it. Oh, an honorable mention, Edge Dancer. It's a novella that takes place between Oathbringer and Rhythm of War, and happens to be my favorite short story from Brandon Sanderson to date. I love the sense of discovery and basically everything about this one. It was so cool. So if you haven't checked this one out yet, it's worth it. Next, Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. Read this one with my book club at the very beginning of the year, and I liked it a lot more than they did. I do agree with some of the problems they brought up, but as I was reading it, I was considering a 5-star read. I didn't love the ending. I didn't love the direction it was taking, so it knocked it back down to like maybe a 4-star. But I love training sequences in books. I love it when characters master skills, and I love really cool coordinated battles and tactics and strategics. It's just so cool to me, and this was an excellent representation of that. There are not a lot of dragons in this novel, so don't be led astray with that. I'm hoping we'll have more in the future books. And I am planning on reading the next one. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But yeah, that was a highlight of the early year. Okay, and I'm counting these as one since it's by the same author, but Joe Abercrombie quickly become one of my all-time favorite authors for the year ever. Best Served Cold, my single favorite book. So good. So good. He's a master at character development and making me really care about some awful people, which takes talent. And then Sharp Ends, it's a series of short stories that should be read as book 7 because it contains spoilers and kind of indication of what's coming next. But Javra and Shavinia in this, their story, I laughed so hard. And I recommend the audiobook for this one because Stephen Pacey and Joe Abercrombie have like an interview at the end of it that tickled me pink. So yes, I think this is my top read of the year, definitely. Next, Memories of Ice, the third book in the Malazan series by Steven Erikson. It took me 3 months to read, but I finally finished it and I absolutely loved it. I am so invested in the world at this point. There are so many like things mentioned in passing that just have so much depth, and you know that he's going to explore it further in future novels. It's so cool. I can't wait to see what happens next. The Black-Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman. One of the most delightful things I have ever read. It's kind of in the same vein as Kings of the Wild by Eames and De Castel's Greatcoat series. That cheeky element, but with a lot of sword fighting and adventure. For me, it read like a web serial, so pretty well-contained scenes. It made it really easy to find stopping points. And I laughed out loud a few times. I love books that make me laugh, and this was irreverent and fun. And I recommend the audio for this one as well because the author himself read it. And so a lot of those really subtle jokes really landed because he knew how to emphasize them. It was awesome. I'm looking forward to a continuation, and I'm hoping to have just a little more depth. I think that's the only thing that was lacking for me. But I really didn't care while I was reading it because I was having so much fun. I read and loved Million Dollar Demon by Kim Harrison. It's book 14 in the Hollows, 15, something like that. Of all the supernatural in the Hollows world, I am most fascinated with Al and the demons. This reinvigoration of the series, focusing on that, I'm just eating up every moment. She has not lost any steam, and reading her works, for me, feels like coming home. Cannot wait. The Trouble with the Curse, her new one, the arc just became available, and I am excited to pick it up. As a huge fan of the Unhewn Throne series, specifically The Emperor's Blade, I read and loved the continuation Empire's Ruin by this author. It's the start of a new trilogy from him, and it had all of the same action and excitement from the first trilogy, and even a few training sequences. I love the adventure. We get to explore new places, and I really like the characters. Some of the POVs were stronger than others for me, but yeah, what he does well, he does really well. Another favorite is Sword of Kaijin. I will be the first to admit that with my book club, I made it to about 30% and almost DNF'd the book, but keep going. You hit a point. There's a very clear point in this book that as you're reading where shit just hits the fan and it becomes amazing. Totally absorbing. One of the best character-driven novels I've ever read. So I went from a DNF to considering a solid 5-star read by the end, but landed at a 4 to indicate that yes, it does take a little while to get going. But it is such a cool book, very unconventional, not very good with the world building in my opinion. There were a lot of things that felt a little thin, but if you love character-driven novels, and if you're sick of all of the same cookie-cutter type stories out there, this is an excellent pick. And it's a standalone, kind of. I have read the first 3 books in the Wayward Children series by Shianen Maguire, and am absolutely loving them so far. It's very unconventional. It's a portal fantasy where these kids have visited other realms, and they're forced back home, and nobody believes them. And so this woman who had also had that experience as a child created this safe haven school for the wayward children. And it seems like each book is exploring a different world, and I'm having a ton of fun with it. I'm not usually a fan of portal fantasy, but this one is really working for me. And I've tried this author's October Day series and got really fed up with the second book. So far, this is the strongest thing I've read from her. And finally, Dead Until Dark by Charlaine Harris. It was a reread for me. The first time I read it, I gave it a 3 stars, like, meh, that's okay. But on the reread, something clicked for me because I absolutely loved it. The characters are so strong, the setting is really rich, the mystery is compelling. So I am looking forward to continuing that one as well. So there's my humble list. I'm kind of bummed that I didn't like more books this year, but at least the ones that I loved, like I really loved. Joe Abercrombie, I can't even. Thank you so much for watching my video. I want to know what your favorite reads for the year were. Did we have any in common? Here's to 2022, a year of awesome reading, and I hope to catch y'all next time. Bye.